Day 4 of SEC Media Days. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton. This episode of Coffee and Football brought to you by our friends at Vaughn Lane. Jerry, today's the day we get to hear from the Texas Longhorns head coach, Steve Sarkisian. 3 key Longhorn players, Arch Manning, Colin Simmons, Trevor Gooseby. This is the day we've been waiting for, had to wait for it 4 days. I don't know why they did this. Texas is the 16th of 16 schools coming
exactly
to
why they did it, Bobby.
You think it's to keep us guys like us around?
I see a lot of suitcases lined up today, and I think if Lane had spoken day 1 and Sark and Arch and everybody had been day 2, I think Radio Row would be a lot more empty now based on a couple of years ago. I, for one, am sad I have to leave because we've had some hellacious views all week. It's like everybody's ready to go home. I'm like, wait, be careful where you're going because we're in Tampa. This is an unbelievable place, but it's going to be fun. Lane Kiffin is just finishing up right now. Then he'll go to the electronic media and do another little press conference. We're going to have Hank South come on in about 15 minutes and tell us what he heard from Lane Kiffin this morning, which will be interesting as well because I hear he's talking about some NIL deals with Nike. Texas has the KD Nike deal as well on the Texas side, which has been very beneficial in high school recruiting thus far on the basketball side for sure. But it's going to be interesting for Sark today and Arch. I think we'll get very standard answers from Arch.
Pat. Yeah,
very
I agree.
standard, very guarded. Colin Simmons may bring some entertainment. We'll see if John Bianco's like, hey, now, slow down, settle down. We need some fireworks. Summerall and Golden gave us a little bit yesterday. That was a good day, but it had been kind of bland up until yesterday when those two guys took the mic. But I think with Sark today, I think it's look, I said yesterday on the show, what do you want to hear from him? The number one thing I want to hear from him is everybody's cleared and ready to go for practice. That's all I care about. Are we healthy? Is the team healthy? Is everybody go? And then the other thing was I would love to hear him just come out and say, look, this is the fastest football team we've had at Texas. I think that would be quite a statement to make, considering you've had double-digit draft picks on a couple of prior teams. If he came out and said that, I'd be like, oof. That would be a statement for me because we know how fast a couple of these teams have been in the past. And I think they believe it in the building, by the way.
Yes, I think that they do believe that. We do have some breaking news to go over that happened yesterday afternoon on Texas football. The first report that Cole Hudson, the former Longhorn who graduated last year and has been in the situation with his NCAA lawsuit, has received a temporary restraining order against the NCAA. Now he just waits for the official order to come through from the female judge that they are dealing with. And from there, Cole Hudson will be permitted back to begin football activities with the University of Texas. Big win for Texas that's looking for setting the floor, so to speak, for that offensive line in 2026. Can't do worse than that. A guy that started 23 games for the Longhorns, he appears set to come back and join the Longhorns as soon as today, actually. Now, obviously, they don't begin official workouts until August 5th. That's the first day of fall camp, but he can rejoin and do the morning workouts with the team, etc. Big news there for the Longhorns. And what's more, based on what I'm being told, Jerry, there could be other players that are similarly situated across the state of Texas and the country, because Colorado defensive lineman Ezra Christensen is also in a similar situation to Cole Hudson, and he has been successful with his litigation thus far against the NCAA and expected back. This could open up a group of players that might be trying to get temporary restraining orders in order to rejoin teams or new teams as soon as August 5th. I mean, this is the craziness that is college football right now.
If you were an undrafted free agent and you didn't think you were guaranteed to make a team, you'd probably take a look at it right now.
You would if you thought you were going to get any NIL.
That's right.
Because the teams themselves right now may be tapped out. Yep. A lot of schools will be tapped out from rev share perspective or NIL. Is Texas one of those teams? We'll have to wait and see.
Depends on if the player's at a position of need.
yeah, that's a real reality. As we talk about this and what we expect from Arch, Trevor Gooseby, and Colin Simmons today, you made mention I want to talk a little bit about this about Colin Simmons maybe being a little bit more of a character,
Yes.
right? Having a little bit, I don't want to say more of a personality because they all have a personality. Colin's more willing, it seems like, to show it in front of the media.
Yes, he's always been that way. Even dating back to the first time I ever talked to him at Duncanville when he was a young kid, I was like, okay, this guy's he's will speak his mind. So somebody, and I love that about Colin. I think that confidence is in who he is, and willing to talk. And hey, some of the coaches may cringe if it's a little trash talky, but I've always liked that about Colin because I think that's part of who he is. And so I'll be interested to see. He wasn't here last year. This is his only opportunity at SEC Media Days. He's going pro after. I mean, like the Senior Bowl guy.
Him.
The Senior Bowl guy said, "No, that one's going pro for sure." He said it on a video we did. So this is Colin's only shot. This is his final year in college football. We all know it. And I'm interested to see what he has to say. I mean, what are they going to do? Bench him? What are they going to do? Drop him in coverage? Is it?
So I want to say this: we're here in Tampa, and it's kind of anywhere you look around here, you see celebrities and folks that are coming through being interviewed by various media outlets. This morning, I got a text from Jerry. Jerry showed up over here early, and I've got to tell this story before we get to the first ad break. Jerry said, "Hurry up, get over here. John Daly is here." Jerry wanted us to interview John.
I'm going to try to get him on air. I would love to get John.
You would like to interview John Daly? Are you and him of kindred spirits?
No, I don't know about that. But he's wearing his Arkansas shirt.
Yeah.
I would like to just know what his favorite Texas Arkansas game is. I'd like to know
one they lost, probably.
Yeah. I mean, look. If Vince Young was on the tee box and had shanked 8 shots in a row, is John going to give him advice or just let him just crumble? Like as an Arkansas Texas thing, I also would like to congratulate him. He beat the snot out of Tiger Woods at the '95 Open when he won the British Open and had the claret jug. I mean, Tiger was only 18, but he beat him by 15. I'd love to get his thoughts on that. He beat down Tiger before Tiger started beating everybody down.
Does anybody actually remember anything he ever did on a golf course, or is he all about the off the course? Shenanigans. That way.
Speaking of a guy that is real.
He is very much who he is.
Never question if he's genuine or
not. All right, before we get in, we're going to talk a little bit about Texas A&M. They went to the podium yesterday. Not only Mike Elko, the head coach, but also Marcel Reed and a couple of other Aggie players. We'll talk about them here in the next segment. But first, we need to say thank you to our sponsor, this Thursday's edition of Coffee and Football, brought to you by friends over at Vaughn Lane. Longhorn fans in the Woodlands and North Houston, listen up. Vaughn Lane just launched a new route between Austin and the Woodlands, and you can book trips right now through October. That means football season is covered. No more white knuckling it down 290. No more fighting for parking. You ride in a first-class leather seat, connect to Starlink Wi-Fi, grab a cold drink, and show up at the game ready to go. But it's not just for game days. The route is perfect for business travelers heading to Austin for state meetings, government work, or the UT campus. And for folks in Austin, it's also a straight shot to the Woodlands for concerts, family visits, or business in the area without dealing with that Houston traffic. And here's what you're not paying for on Vaughn Lane: bag fees, seat assignments, or any of the nickel and dime nonsense the airlines have cooked up. Everything is included: Wi-Fi, snacks, beverages, hot towel service, and complimentary meals on select departures. You board at a private hotel terminal with no TSA and no lines. Vaughn Lane connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta. Book at vaughnlane.com and enter OTF26 at checkout for $20 off your first ride. That's OTF26 at checkout for $20 off your first ride. Vaughn Lane, your private jet on wheels. We really appreciate their ongoing sponsorship of Coffee and Football.
Absolutely.
Good guys there. All right, Tay. Jerry, I'm going to ask Matt, our producer this morning, to play a clip of Mike Elko yesterday. He made news for a brief second about talking about his trophy case over in College Station. I want people to get a listen to this real quick.
After last year's playoff run, how do you keep this team from becoming satisfied?
I show them our trophy case, and it's empty. And I think they're all very aware of that. And so, I think, listen, we live in a lot of worlds. And so we're obviously happy with the things that we accomplished. We're happy with the direction of our program. But it's also not lost on us that we haven't won the hardware that we're searching for. And so, that gets us into a mindset of growth and getting back to work to go finish this thing a little bit better than we did last year and put ourselves in a better position maybe to compete for some trophies.
After last year's playoff run,
I'd say that the Dr. Pepper case behind us has more trophies in it than A&M's.
Oh, Bobby went there. It'll be empty in about 5 minutes. It'll look the same.
I was in there for that
Yeah.
media availability with Mike Elko, and I thought he was just being candid. Like, what is our emphasis?
I like it.
What is our drive? And I also believe this, and I wrote it yesterday as well. At least he didn't put in a fake trophy.
That's right.
Or a pretend trophy like his predecessor.
You know what we call that?
Learning from their past mistakes and coming in and saying, hey, look, what you don't want to do is replicate anything before you at the job that was Jimbo Fisher. He was there. He lived part of that, right? John Summerall talked about that yesterday. You come in and you kind of look at what was done right, what was done wrong, and you kind of evaluate that job when you get there. I got to tell you, I like what Elko said yesterday. I don't know if they're ever going to get over the hump. I don't know if 1939 will live forever. None of us know. Odds are at some point they'll win one. Baylor won one in basketball. Who thought that would ever happen? No Baylor fan. But look, he's one of the guys that's been pretty real up there in front of the mic, I thought, in the past few months as well. So give him credit for it.
We'll get to a couple more things he said, but first, I want to also hit this clip, and so we can kind of have the whole discussion around it. And he talked about the importance of the Texas game as it relates to the entire season. Let's play that clip now, and then we can talk about the entire discussion around Texas A&M yesterday.
No, I don't probably have a day go by without being reminded how important that game is to me, but that's okay. I think that's what's great about college rivalries is the passion that our fan base has for that game and certainly is matched by their fan base for that game as well. I think not only because of the rivalry, but also because of the status of both programs, I think it would be naive to not say that we put a little bit of extra work into preparation for that game because that game inevitably is going to mean an awful lot. It has for the last 2 seasons, not just because of the proximity and the rivalry, but because it seems to have playoff and SEC championship implications as well. And so when you put all of that into that game, it certainly makes a little bit of sense to give it some extra preparation.
Well, the Longhorns certainly top of mind for Mike Elko. What'd you think of his comments there?
Look, what are you going to say when you've lost 2 in a row?
Yes.
Look, you're going to hear it. It's the expectation that comes with the job, no different than Brent Venables. I do think what's interesting nowadays about these jobs is probably in the past, if you lost 3 or 4 to your rival coach, there's a good chance you were out unless you were doing miraculous things. Now the playoffs can save you and can buy you more time, right? So maybe if you lose the rivalry game, but you end up in the playoffs, and look, does that help Brent Venables last year? Probably helped Brent Venables last year, right, Bobby? So you get a little more leeway, but at the end of the day, look, the expectation, there is one expectation that's going through the roof this year from A&M fans. Mike Elko needs to beat Texas in College Station.
Has to.
If he doesn't, he's going to have an A&M fan problem. Even if he gets to the first round of the playoffs and loses, they're still going to be like, oh, no.
Yeah, so I was speaking with Billy Lucci yesterday, everybody's favorite. And I asked Billy point blank, does Elko have a Texas problem right now? And I say that because Steve Sarkisian has a Kirby Smart problem.
Yep.
If Elko 2 losses, maybe not a problem. 3 losses is a problem. And I think that is one of the things that we can discuss because I think Sark may have Elko's number just enough. And we, as I sat back and listened to everything that transpired yesterday, not just with Elko, but Marcel Reed, Marcus Ratliff, was here. Damian Sanford, one of their captains, was here as well. It's very interesting how they are opining on this year. It sounds to me, Jerry, like they think that they've at least made a offensive line that should be okay.
Mhm.
They've pieced together something that should be okay. Not necessarily as good as last year's, which, by the way, couldn't run the ball in the last half of the season.
After Moss went out,
Right.
they were done.
Yeah. And so my question to you is, are you buying Texas A&M right now or not? Or is there some kind of nuanced in-between level for you? Because I will say this, there is some nuanced in-between level for me.
Yeah, so I buy their talent level in the program because they're a top 5-6 NIL program. I actually asked Mike Elko the question yesterday in the electronic media session. I said, last year, before the season, you said you had 10, 11 NFL draft picks. I said, you were spot on. So I'm going to ask the question this year, how many guys do you think you have that are going to be drafted? And he kind of hedged. He didn't give me a real number, but he said the goal is 8 to 10 every year. Okay, well then we talked to Billy Luch. Billy Luch said probably 8 to 9 guys, maybe not those first, second round guys like they had last year. 4 guys going the first 2 rounds of the draft. I think they had 7 going the top 3 rounds of the draft. So I buy their talent level in the program because you got to be real about this. They're one of the top NIL programs. They're going to be able to win in high school recruiting. They're going to be able to win in the portal. So they're going to be sitting on that number of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 draft picks every year, or should be if they have the right coach. Now, the question becomes to Texas A&M is Holman Wiggins and Marcel Reed. Where is that going to go this year? Year 3 for Marcel Reed as a starter, but where's that going to go in Holman Wiggins' first year as a play caller? Oh, and with a whole new offensive line. I think their wideouts are really good. I think Bethel Roman's really good. Obviously, Craver, Isaiah Horton. Elko talked about him, the big 50-50 ball winner they haven't had. I think they got a really sound group of wideouts. But is the offensive line, all those guys were SEC starters. That mean they were high-level SEC starters. Because they wouldn't have been released from their schools if they were high-level.
Yeah, they would have been retained.
So they can be good players put together. But then on top of the new play caller, what are they going to change offensively? Where's their run game consistency going to come from? Because they had it with Le'Veon Moss last year. And then defensively for them, defensive front. I think they're putting a lot on Marco Jones to go be a great player there. And maybe they're right. But they got Sock out of the portal at one edge. They didn't go after another edge. So they're telling that to me is saying, we think Marco Jones is going to be a great player. Are they going to be able to create that same level of disruption on the defensive front?
So you said all of that. You didn't really answer my question. Are you buying A&M or not?
I'm buying them to win 9 games from a pure talent perspective. But 9 games doesn't get you in the playoffs. We had Greg McElroy on yesterday. We'll have that video, and he picks A&M to win 10 games for the second straight year, which means they're back in the playoff. I'm not sure I'm there. I think the schedule is a little tougher this year, and there's too much of an unknown on offense in the key area of play caller, quarterback, and offensive line. But I think their talent level will probably get them to 9 wins. I think the A&M Texas game is going to matter every single year from here on out. And Elko talked about that yesterday, and I think he's spot on. Like if A&M is 9-2 going into the Texas game next year, and say Texas is 10-1, that game's got a hell of a lot of meaning.
No doubt.
I mean, I think the game's going to have meaning every year because they're top NIL programs and they're going to have talent. You can't deny that A&M's going to have enough talent to be competitive with people.
So 9-3 is kind of buying them because I think it's 8 is the number that I came up with, but that's okay. I mean, look, here's the two phases that I look at. There's 2 primary phases of football, offense and defense. I am buying their defense.
Yeah.
So I actually think they went out and got some good players in the portal to kind of backfill some spots they needed at linebacker, at edge, defensive tackle, especially. So, I think that Elko believes that this is their best secondary.
He said that.
And he's a defensive coach. Yeah. Okay. Mix all of that together. I am buying their defense to a level.
Yeah.
Is it a great defense? I would bet that it's not going to be great.
That'll be great.
Okay. The other side of the ball is what I'm not buying, no matter how many times they try to tell me I should.
Yeah.
And that includes Marcel Reed, that includes Mike Elko, that includes Billy Lucci. Look, that offensive line is makeshift at best. And Marcel Reed still doesn't know who he is as a quarterback, in my opinion. Is he a passer? Is he a runner? Can he run? I mean, we saw him walking around here yesterday. He is still thin.
Oh, he looks built like he's built like a slot wide receiver.
Yeah, he's thinner than Colt McCoy.
Yeah,
just to give you an idea.
He's 185 pounds.
Yeah. I mean,
with nice shoes on. Okay? With his $5,000 shoes on this.
Yeah,
he's 185.
But my point being on all of this, I am buying their defense and I am selling their offense hard, despite what I think may be the second or third best group of wide receivers in the conference.
Here's the one thing I'll say: if you look at their schedule, they better be 9-1 after the Tennessee game, because they play at Oklahoma on the 21st, short week Texas at home. They better, if they want to be in the playoff for sure, they're going to need to be 9-1, because they will not win both of those games. If they have to win both of those games to get in, I think they're in trouble.
Yeah.
So A&M's going to have to be 9-1 going in the last two.
Yeah, they've got to beat LSU. They've got to beat LSU on the road. But that game with LSU, unlike Texas, which plays them later in the year, they get LSU early.
Yep.
I think that'll be a big. They go to Alabama. Then they have Texas at home.
South Carolina, that's a stumble game for a team.
But they almost stumbled against them last year.
And they got smoked 2 years ago.
Yeah.
South Carolina could run the football. But they better be 9-1 going in the last two. Because if you said your last two games are at Oklahoma and Texas at home, you're going to be like, we're going to probably go 1-1 in those two.
Yeah.
So you better be 9-1 going in the last two. That's what I would say for A&M.
At the very least, at this point, in my opinion. What did you think of Marcel Reed? Let's turn this a little bit and talk a little bit about him. Nice young man.
Yeah.
Kid,
great kid. I mean,
yeah, all of that stuff. Did you like his answers as it related to what he worked on this summer? Because one of the questions came up, like, why were you so good against LSU but not against other teams? His answer was his legs. And that's kind of the issue. I mean, you can't run him because he's so, frail is not the right word for a guy like that. But his build just doesn't lean into the ability to run the ball 12 weeks in a row. No. It just doesn't, especially not in the SEC, where you're going to get one more conference game this year.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And in talking to a couple of SEC D coordinators or those level guys in the offseason, they're like, get him off the first read, and we feel good about slowing down the A&M offense. And so are they going to put him in harm's way, to your point? They're going to say, what did Elko say? What did Marcel read? We're going to play him on the move more. Well, the more you play it, so that sounds good in theory, right? And I'm not saying they're wrong. But the more he's playing on the move, the higher percentages he's just going to take off and tuck the football.
Yeah.
Because if you play him on the move, you're essentially cutting off half the field. You know, if you roll him on a short waggle right, he has enough experience. If he's throwing back across his body to the left side of the football field, he knows that's a bad play. So if you cut down the field into 2/3 or half the field, then what are you going to do if option one, if what read 1 or 2 is not open? You're gonna use your legs. So I think there's an element of that they could put him more in harm's way. And if they do, then they are definitely bringing injury into play with him. Because these are big bodies that are falling on you. There's big bodies that are hitting you. You're running into big bodies just by being on the field. So he's definitely more prone to injury the more he's on the move.
I would add this, and I didn't bring it up when I kind of dismissed their offense somewhat. I should add the Holman-Wiggins hire. Listening to Mike Elko yesterday try to explain why he made that hire, I listened intently. I still don't understand the hire. It almost felt like, well, we thought, he's been a good coach, and I looked around, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener. and I thought he had done a good job here for us. And when you have a blank checkbook, that is not, Jerry, that's not the confidence I want. I want you to go hire somebody like a Will Muschamp.
Yeah.
Frankly, that's going to bring some street cred to your opposite side of the ball. When you're a defensive coach, you want a big, strong offensive coordinator. When you're an offense coach, you want a strong defense coordinator. I'm not buying that aspect either. I think that's plain and simple.
By the way, is this better? Mic check for the chat. Mic check for the chat. Everybody's saying it's too low, so I'm trying not to eat the fur off. I think mic check. Are we a little better here? Because we're about to bring Hank South in to talk about what Lane Kiffin had to say here in a couple of minutes, Bobby.
Yeah, we will. Holman Wiggins, though, that hire, I think they hired him. They hired him, Jerry, and then he got a pay raise and an extension. That's confidence in your coach. Because last time a big extension went out to Texas A&M, they ended up paying $75 million to Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that's the way things need to go. But we're going to get Hank South in here. He listened to Lane Kiffin this morning. We'll talk a little bit about that, talk a little bit with Hank, also about what he wants to hear as it relates to Jerry, Texas coming in today and talking. We'll all be there for that. But first, let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. You guys know we're always looking for ways to make watching games a little more fun, and that's exactly why we love Prize Picks. It's America's #1 sports pick app, and honestly, it's about as simple as it gets. For player picks, all you do is choose more or less on a few players' stats and lock in your lineup. That's it. And if you're someone who likes picking teams instead of individual players, Prize Picks has you covered there too. You can now pick the winner, the spread, or the total on games in even fights. Prize Picks is available in most states, including Texas, California, and Florida. So chances are you can jump in today. And one of my favorite features is that you can follow users on the app. If you like the picks they're making, you can tail them with one click, and you can follow your friends' picks too. Now, here's the best part. If you've never tried Prize Picks before, play your first $5 lineup, and if you win, you'll get a $150 in bonus lineups. Just make sure you use code HMA when you sign up. They actually just updated the offer, so there's never been a better time to get started. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code HMA. Play the first $5 lineup, and if you win, you'll get $150 in bonus lineups. That's Prize Picks, code HMA. Good luck, and as always, play smart, play responsibly, play Prize Picks. Jerry, tell folks about Ridge Wallet, my favorite.
I hope you can hear this, Ridge Wallet Read. You guys know we're big fans of Ridge. They make awesome
wallets, power banks, luggage, and premium everyday gear. And we've been using their stuff for a while now. Ridge just launched their annual sweepstakes, and this year's prizes are absolutely wild. From July 24th through September 8th, 2 lucky winners get to choose between a Lamborghini Sterrato, a Hennessy Velociraptor, a custom Ford Bronco, and $100K in cash. If it were me, I would absolutely take the $100K in cash. As I said, let us know what you pick.
Make it rain, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm trying. The best part, I'm trying to make the mic work and make it rain. The best part is you can enter completely free at Ridge.com. If you've already planning to grab a new wallet, power bank, luggage, or any other Ridge gear, every dollar you spend earns you additional entries. Ready to upgrade your wallet and maybe your ride for a limited time? Head to Ridge.com and use code ONTexas to check out for 10% off your order and a chance to win Ridge's biggest sweepstakes ever. A Lamborghini Sterrato, a Hennessy Velociraptor, a Ford Bronco, or my favorite, $100K in cash. No purchase necessary to enter, but every dollar you spend gets more entries. That's Ridge.com and use that code ONTexas, all caps.
All right. It looks like maybe the mic is broke. Is that what the problem is here, or is it turned off? You're going to the Dr. Pepper count and get that done. Do you want to change mic? Just use the same mic. I'll do that. Hank, how you doing, buddy?
Hello. Good morning.
Hey, we were talking a few minutes ago about you going to see our friend Lane Kiffin up at the speaking at the dais earlier. What did he have to say this morning?
Yeah, he had a lot to say. I would say it was kind of a Lane Kiffin filibuster in a way, because he spoke and then he took 4 questions and he was done. But um, kind of what I expected Lane Kiffin to be. It was kind of a new Lane Kiffin. Greg Sankey introduced him by saying he's been on a social media cleanse since May 11th at the request of his son. And then Lane Kiffin talked about that, saying, he went a step further and just deleted everything from his phone to just eliminate distractions, and now he can kind of see how addicted people are to social media. So that was a big part of what he talked about. He talked about the SEC 9-game schedule. He was asked about the Vanity. Yeah, it didn't feel like he talked for long, but then you realized that when he only took 4 questions.
So this is the question I have for you. Knowing what you know of Lane Kiffin, it's not the first time you've seen him speak. What do you think he thought of his team heading into 2026?
Is that working, man? What do you think? We're gonna keep going.
About talking to them about it and listening to that feels like it's going to be a big moment in the SEC. The question I have is, does he feel like he's going to be able to start off quickly? Because not only does he go to Ole Miss, he also has A&M that we just talked about. Are they going to be ready early enough? Did anybody ask him about that?
Nobody asked him about that. Let me turn that on.
Yeah, you're good.
Nobody asked him about that, and I'm sorry, nobody really asked him about the move from Ole Miss to LSU. He didn't really address it. He kind of touched on it, vaguely, but they're going to have to be ready. Like you mentioned, they start with Clemson. I think they have the players to compete with anybody in the country. And then, as he was talking, I was looking. That back half of the schedule, even before Texas on November 14th, they have Alabama. I believe they play at Auburn the week before Alabama, and then they have Tennessee. So they have a pretty treacherous back half of the schedule. But the way he spoke about the team, obviously they have leadership from the defense with Weeks, the linebacker they brought. He had a chance to go to the NFL. They have a pretty strong secondary, really good interior defensive line. So we'll know quickly. They open with Clemson, but it seems like he's pretty excited and believes they can win now this season.
LSU is going to be one of those teams. Texas plays later in the year. We'll have to see how they kind of gel over the length of the season. Let's move forward to the Longhorns, talk a little Longhorn football here. We talked about it last night, you and I privately. What are you wanting to hear from Texas, Coach Steve Sarkisian, or any of the players that we'll get to talk to later today?
Yeah, with Sark, and this kind of came to mind yesterday listening to Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. I'm really curious to see how they are addressing fixing the penalty issues. Texas is 132nd in penalties last season. You can't, history will show you the last 5 years, the lowest team in that category was Georgia at 39. Everybody else has been in the top 20 to win the national championship. I asked all the Alabama players about it. They talked about putting an emphasis on that in the offseason because Alabama went from 123 to 17 in one offseason. They talked about the emphasis they put on it and doing things properly even when you're tired. So they gave some interesting answers. But I'm curious to see Sark's thoughts on that, how they're – because that's something they're talking about this offseason.
When you finish in the 130s,
Yes.
you need improvement.
Yes, absolutely. So I'd like to hear about that. I'd like to hear about the wide receiver quarterback connection with Arch and receivers. I would think it's pretty strong now as we've seen them work out together in different areas throughout the country this summer, going to New Orleans. See how that bond is going. And then I'm curious about the offensive line as well. I mean that's a lot of the talking points with Hudson stuff now, and I would like to hear kind of his thoughts on where that group stands, adding in Lawrence Seymour this summer. And some of the younger guys coming out.
He's been asked repeatedly about the influence of adding Will Muschamp. I mean, I don't know that there's anything more that we can ask about that.
Yeah,
that's one of the things. And he's been fairly open from the outset about it. So I'm with you. I'm gonna give a nod to Jerry Hamilton here, and one thing that we haven't discussed enough on this channel or period are special teams. Ryan Niblett won a couple games for Texas, or at least contributed heavily to winning a couple games for Texas. We haven't heard much about Matt Chiumento, the punter from Florida State, or Gianni Spedic, the kicker from Memphis. Maybe that's a focus that we ask him about. Like, what are his expectations? Because both of those, Mason Shipley and Jack Boomeister, both of them outperformed expectations. Jack Boomeister, by the way, I don't know if y'all saw this or not, just got a 3-year deal from the San Francisco 49ers. So congratulations to the former Texas punter. But maybe special teams is a little bit of a talk, and is who's going to be returning kicks, that kind of stuff. Overall, though, we know this Texas team fairly well. I don't know that Sark's going to be particularly revealing today. Jerry and I were talking about it earlier. We think Colin Simmons. We may need to follow Colin because of all the guys here, he may be the one most likely to say something that we get out of it.
To Colin's credit, I feel like he goes into media availabilities like he wants to give you something.
And,
which I appreciate. We appreciate it. He's always very candid, as transparent as he can be. Remember before the Ohio State game last season, I asked him because Ohio State named Julian Sayin their starter prior to that week 1. And he just posted on his Instagram a screenshot of Julian Sayin. That's all. And I was like, hey, what was that about? And he goes, I'm just glad I have somebody I can sack now, or something to that extent. So he always gives you something good. After games, he was great. Later in the season, as he got going, his confidence got up. I'm absolutely excited to hear about Colin and kind of hear what he thinks about these young. We hear so much about Richard Wesley. Obviously we've heard about Zena and Zolo throughout the offseason. I'm curious to hear his thoughts on those guys and kind of their progression in the program.
Look, here's the reality of it. We'll see what they say this afternoon. You'll be there, as will CJ, Jeff Howe, Jerry, myself. We'll all be in there listening, and we'll be bringing it to you guys here at On Texas Football. Hank, thanks a bunch. Managing editor of OnTexasFootball.com, Hank South. Thanks for joining us. Let's have Jerry come on back in here. We can change the name on the screen. He's got his Dr. Pepper in hand.
What the people ask for.
They asked for Dr. Pepper. They have all kinds of
Zero sugar. Hold on. Let me move these basketball hands. Zero sugar.
Is that for your fiance's edification? She need to know you're going zero sugar at this point. All right. Hey, Jerry, you heard what Hank was talking about there about the Longhorns, and you also heard the part about Lane Kiffin. Anything you want to comment on either of those?
Yeah, no. I think LSU's their schedule early on is really tough, and so my question with that is that's going to be a challenge of how quickly can you really bring a talented team together. We all talk. In the offseason, all we talk about is the talent on all these teams, the talent on this team, the talent on that team. But Lane's got a heck of a challenge because when you start pretty much over, you got Coach Baker back, and you got both corners back who are really good. You got some pieces back, but still, you have to bring a team together right out of the gate with this schedule. I mean, you get Clemson. I know it's a home game, but the one thing Clemson has, one advantage Clemson has, Dabo has over Lane in this game is continuity. I mean, does he have enough? He's not as talented as they used to be at Clemson, clearly, but he's still got continuity. And how good is LSU going to be out of the gate? Look, Sam Levitt's healthy. He's been dunking the football on basketball goals all summer, or on the field goal post all summer. He's clearly healthy. But how good are they actually going to be out of the gate? Because they have to be really good. Look at the first 5 games they played. This is not one of those. This is not a schedule where you get to come out and play 3 cupcakes and get warmed up for SEC play. You got Clemson right out of the gate, and after that, I mean, you talked about the schedule, Bobby. They got La Tech, but then they go to Ole Miss. Then they have Texas A&M. You could start 1-3 on that schedule if you lose the opener. You can definitely start 2-2, and the fans are already going to start to hate you a little bit in that. So how he's got some pressure on him to bring the team together and be good out of the gate. I mean, that is tough to do.
I agree with that, and that's one of the things I've been saying.
Yeah.
Is he has to start quickly if he wants to get into the playoffs this year, because he has that brutal early schedule. What about your questions for Sark today? And then after this, we're going to get we got a bunch of questions loaded up in the chat. But your thoughts on what you want to hear from Steve Sarkisian and or one of the Texas players today?
Yeah, I definitely, what Hank said, I want to hear what Colin Simmons says about a young guy like Richard Wesley. I've heard too much behind the scenes. If this guy has a chance to be a really, really good football player at Texas, I want to hear that. But you brought up something I definitely want to hear from Sark, is kicking and punting situation. Where does he think that is? Is there a punting competition going into August camp? I mean, is there a competition at that job? I think that's very important. Because I've talked about it all season. I know people are like, you talk about special teams too much, but I really think Gianni Spedic there's going to be a couple of games come down to his right foot. I mean, it happened last year. It's going to happen again on the schedule Texas is playing. He is going to trot out onto the field with a make or break kick once or twice this year for this team. And where does Sark believe the kicking position is? Where does he believe Spedic is? Is there going to be a competition at punter? Because you lost 2 really good ones last year. And that's big for me to hear from Sark. And then, look, I think what the fans want to hear is the obvious. What's he going to say about the offensive line? What's he going to say when asked about, is there a competition at left guard? What's going on there? Well, how does he feel this offensive line compares? Like, one question I would want to ask Sark is, and I have the ability to, talent-wise, is this year's offensive line, can it be what 24 and 23 offensive lines were? Because no matter what how we talked about how that line played, 4 guys got drafted off that offensive line. Does he believe he has that talent level on this year's offensive line? But that's a big deal, because we were just talking about A&M, how they're putting their offensive line together out of the portal. Okay. With Sark, the question is, do you feel like the offensive line, your potential starting offensive line, is on par with 24 and 23? And if he says yes, that's what you want to hear.
What did you give in that year? And this is my point whenever I talk about these, is expectations. A lot of people are saying, oh, well, we need to dominate at the offensive line. This offensive line's not going to dominate. So stop it.
Yeah.
And, like I try to tell people, you can want that, but that's not a reasonable expectation with this group. It's a reasonable expectation that they at least stalemate or better than last year, in my opinion, or 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever the case may be. But in all honesty, I mean, are you expecting a B plus, a B minus, a C, a D? I mean, my point is, this offensive line at the end of the year, if we grade them a B, Texas is in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just the way it's going to be, I think. What are your reasonable expectations for that?
I watched Clemson win 2 national championships with what people would call B plus, B minus offensive lines. They didn't have a first-round draft pick on the offensive line. They didn't have even a second-round draft pick.
What do you want the grade to be?
I think if you could tell me right now, I would say B to B plus. I mean, look, I'm not going to set. I don't think that's necessarily a position. But I also think it's this. I do also think it's this, Bobby. I think it's a wide zone run scheme. So you're not the scheme is not traditionally what people have won with at the highest level in the SEC. So I think I don't want to put it all just on players. But what I will say about the offensive line, I think it needs to be a solid theme because I think that's what Clemson had. Clemson had tremendous. They were really good at quarterback. They were great at skill positions. They were really good on defense. Offensive line was not the strength of those teams. But you have to.
But they won an extra title.
But you have to be good enough
Yeah.
to maximize all those talented skill players and your quarterbacks.
Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Etienne, Dusty, the Hunter Renfro.
Yep.
That group. Yeah, I can see that. So, all right, we're going to go to break here for 1 second, have you talk about Hayes City. But I also want to repeat this because a lot of people missed it at the outset of the show. Cole Hudson, the offensive lineman for Texas, received a temporary restraining order yesterday afternoon. They are writing it up today, and it's going to be presented by the judge. And in Texas will then receive that from Cole and his representation. And then immediately Cole Hudson, the former starting left guard, former starting center at the University of Texas last year, can begin or re-begin football activities with the University of Texas. That's big news because as we talk about the offensive line, we think that sets the floor for the offensive line. And frankly, that offensive line is maybe what sets the floor as well as the ceiling for Texas in 2026. All right, Jerry, if you don't mind, tell folks about our friends over at Hayes City Store.
There are very few restaurants what you go to, you immediately know they're just special. Hayes City Store is one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They got the famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, and desserts. All of it's absolutely delicious. All of it's from scratch. There's also live music 6 nights a week with 50 beer taps, ice cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. There are 13 TVs alone in the ice house, perfect for game days, and they even have brunch served from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Sunday. Hayes City Store is dog friendly, and they have a tree net for kids. Join the folks at Hayes City Store and bring your whole crew. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
All right, Jerry, let's see if we can get back in here and get going. Got a few questions to get to today. Let's go to the chat line right now and figure those out. Let's start with this one from Texas Blake. Are they expecting Cole Hudson to actually start? Don't love that idea. I don't know that they have definitive expectations. They just want to get back in and see what they got.
I posted on TexasFootball.com yesterday just some team notes, and I think there's been a consensus among fans that Lawrence Seymour's just going to walk in and be the starting left guard. I think there is a real, true competition, not a fluff competition. A fluff competition for me was when Quinn Ewers came in, and it was a competition between him and Hudson Card. That wasn't really a competition. They were trying to keep Hudson Card from transferring, and Quinn Ewers was going to be the starting quarterback. In my opinion, this is not a fluff competition. This is going to be a real competition. Lawrence Seymour wasn't in for sprint. Okay, so this is not known for sprint still. He has to go do it in August. I think there's going to be a real competition at left guard. And I think if Texas had a surefire starter, I'm not sure they'd have to be taking the same approach with Cole Hudson necessarily.
I agree with that.
I mean, so I think it's going to be a real competition. Somebody's got to go win the job in August. I think there's going to be 3 or 4 bodies out there who are trying to win that job. And I do not think they have a starter right now. I think it's going to be a competition.
And that's good.
That's a good thing.
That's good. Jason Zablinski, if Cole comes back and starts, I think we need to be more concerned about the O-line. Cole's a great kid, but he was not good last year, and there's never been a plus player. There are elements of truth in there at some level. I'm most concerned not necessarily with the idea that he is
Keep talking.
Not only that he is in this scenario, Jerry, where he's coming back, is he ready to come back based on not being
in the football facility at Texas. Now, he has been working out with various proteins, et cetera, to keep himself prepared. But even Jeff Howe and I were talking about it. Even so, that can be very difficult for him to be ready to go right after the game.
Yeah, it's the same thing we talked about with Lawrence Seymour. Is with Lawrence Seymour, you can't, in Miami finishing up school online, and he was working out, but you can't replicate a college strength and conditioning program. When you're a bigger guy, you're 315, 320 pounds, you cannot replicate working out with a college strength and conditioning program. You just can't. You can think you're in pretty good shape, but they know at the end of the day, Lawrence Seymour knew coming in, he really wasn't in football shape. How long will it take Cole Hudson to get back into football shape? There's a process with that, and so we'll see what happens there. But look, I think it's going to be an interesting competition at left guard. The other thing I kind of look at left guard, Bobby, is does Jordan Coleman work out in at left guard in August? Like, I think that's an open competition, and Lawrence Seymour's done a good job changing his body. I'm not changing his body, getting in the football shape since he's been in Austin is what I would say. Cole Hudson's got that in front of him again a little bit. It does take a little work, and I'll be interested. Jaden Chapman obviously will probably roll out with the ones the first practice in August at left guard. And I'm interested to see does Jordan Coleman get any reps there? How many people are involved in this competition at the end of the day?
All right, let's take a different tack because I put this super chat up from Horns Truth on here, and rather than talk specifically about Cole, let's take the back end of this conversation. We can't be hypocritical. He had his time already. Is Texas or are we being hypocritical here, saying, hey, he's coming back? Is that hypocritical? Because I by the way, I reported this news yesterday, and my Twitter feed was flooded by Texas Tech guys going, oh, this is the same thing. Y'all are just trying to bend the rules, etc.
Well,
first of all, Steve Sarkisian wasn't out there saying, we're going to break the rules to get this guy back or sue the world. I mean, neither was the president or the chairman of the board of the university. I think it's definitely a different scenario than Brendan Sorsby.
Yeah.
But is it hypocritical somewhat of Texas to be they're not promoting it? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I want to address the Tech thing first of all. The one thing I've learned through the whole Sorsby thing is that's the dumbest fan base in America. I'd have to go to another country to find competition for them. I mean, the justification on Sorsby and the way they go after anybody that is anti-Sorsby because he gambled on his own team's unbelievable. Dumbest fan base in America. All right, to that point, easily, like non-negotiable. To the other point,
I always thought it was the Aggies.
No. Texas Tech's like eclipsed it all. But look, I will say this. I've been upfront about this, and it has nothing to do with Cole Hudson, nothing to do with Kendall Weaver, nothing to do with Jordan Pope, guys that played at Texas. I'm against this. I just don't like that the injunctions have been filed. I love the 5-for-5. The timing of it was really bad, which gives these kids the opportunity to go get
out the 2022 class.
Right. So I don't like it. I'm going to be honest. I'm not in favor of it. Doesn't mean I don't like Cole Hudson or Jordan Pope or Kendall Weaver, and they're not coming back to Texas. But I mean, any of these guys are going to play anywhere. But what I will say is I'm also not going to begrudge them
their opportunity
because the timing of this allowed for this opportunity for them. And sometimes the timing is tough to control, but I'm not going to begrudge these guys for trying to get the extra year. All they've seen is everybody getting extra years for the last 2 or 3 years in college athletics. And I think the 5 years to play is going to be great for college sports, but there's always going to be those bumps that come with that when that rule comes into place because it just wasn't good timing. So am I for it? No. Am I going to say, oh, these guys are wrong for doing it? I can't. That's where you get hypocritical, even if you don't agree that these guys should be able to get the extra year necessarily. But for the Texas Tech fan base, don't ever try to say that's the same as you guys supporting a guy who gambled on his own team and a coach that supported that. Give me a break.
So I'm going to tie this in a little bit to what Greg Sankey talked about.
actually, Jerry. Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, he said that the implementation of the 5-for-5 is exactly why the SEC could have done this better than the NCAA itself. And one of the reasons why self-governance, actually, in his opinion, might work. He goes, because we never would have done it this way.
Yeah.
We just, I mean, of course you give people the 5-for-5.
Right.
So I think that, you know, my viewpoint on this is Cole Hudson is not doing anything anybody else didn't do or someone else didn't do.
There's going to be more guys do it coming up in the next week or two.
Absolutely going to be more is what we're hearing. And it could potentially affect the Longhorns as well as anybody else, by the way. So we'll see what that means. But my point, the larger point, I guess, Jerry, is I don't see the comparison between the two. I see this more like those basketball players that there were 30 of them that filed suit. And, you know, it's not like Cole Hudson is asking for junior college years not to count.
Mm-hmm.
It's a true 5-for-5, and only the 2022 class was affected by it.
I'm interested to see if we're going to have anybody off a NFL reserve type of situation try to make a move in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I think we are.
Let's turn our attention now to the quarterbacks that talked yesterday. Two of them, Marcel Reed, obviously from Texas A&M, and Trinidad Chambliss from Ole Miss. Impressive young man. Watching the two QBs from interviews from yesterday, Rocky P says, I saw a stark difference. Reed's confidence seemed forced. Chambliss was very much like his play style, calm, confident, and smooth.
As it should be.
I think that if I would have more confidence if I'm Trinidad Chambliss coming back than Marcel Reed. Marcel Reed.
I mean, look, Trinidad Chambliss, and obviously he didn't lack any confidence in himself making the move to Ole Miss, then going out and winning that job and given the opportunity. But if he had any self-doubt early on when he took the ball at Ole Miss, that went away. He proved to have a clutch gene, and he proved to be able to the guy that made the big plays at the big moments for his team. And that is the difference. Look, I mean, we can say what we want about Marcel Reed. What does he need to improve on? You know, where can he improve as a quarterback? But there's a big difference between those two guys as players right now. One should have sky-high confidence. He almost delivered Ole Miss to a national championship game after the coach left. I mean, that guy's proven to have the clutch gene. He made big plays on the biggest stage of his career and never thought he'd be there 2 years ago. He was playing D2 football. He never thought he was going to be playing in a national semifinal game, and then he delivered. Reed has not delivered. So there should be a clear difference in confidence, and there's a total difference in those quarterbacks, and that's the step that all these guys, everybody's looking up at Trinidad Chambliss in the SEC right now, Bobby. Arch, Stockton, you name it, they're all looking up at Trinidad Chambliss this year. Who's going to be the guy to come up and deliver in those big moments, in those big games, like Trinidad Chambliss did last year?
Well,
that's why Greg McElroy said yesterday he's the best quarterback in the SEC starting the season.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
I mean that's what I've been saying. Why I'm, you have him and Keywan Lacey together. I've been mentioning Ole Miss for a while. The thing I would say about Marcel Reed when I say that, why would he have confidence? Think of his last two games.
Yeah,
he's 0-2 in his last two games, and put in really poor performances in both.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have confidence coming back off that?
Your offense didn't score in a playoff game. It's hard to have confidence. Last time you took the field when you couldn't move the football.
That's what I'm getting at.
And you're under duress the whole time.
Texas on my mind, going back to Cole Hudson. Hudson is Exhibit 2000 as to how Texas has completely mismanaged OL recruiting and portal. They shouldn't be in this position. Unacceptable. How is it Exhibit 2000 when it's found money? Maybe they're going to be okay without Cole Hudson. Texas on my mind. You're jumping the gun to say that this is an exhibit of a negative reaction when only it can be positive at the very worst. I don't understand how it's an exhibit that they mismanaged the O-line. Can you explain that? Why would it be an exhibit that they mismanaged it? Because they're taking him back? Well,
Anybody in the country right now would take a guy that has 48 games played back on their roster.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
At any position.
Yeah.
O-line, safety, quarterback, they're taking him back. Doesn't mean he's going to start.
Doesn't mean he's going to start.
As we just went over. So how is that an exhibit?
Look, I mean, here's the way I look at it. I don't. Thank you for the super chat. Don't necessarily agree with it. Connor Robertson's going into his first year starting at center.
Full year.
Full year. You would take Cole Hudson back to be the backup center as an emergency guy who started games at center if you're in Texas position, no matter what. To your point, Bobby, no matter what. I mean, I think Jackson Christian's going to be a really good player. Texas really likes Jackson Christian. If Cole Hudson was a backup guard and center and Connor Robertson got hurt in the second quarter of the Ohio State game, wouldn't you be glad you had Cole Hudson back, at least to come into that game? Would you want to go to a guy that's never snapped in a game before at that point? I wouldn't. Just me.
Switching back over to A&M for a minute, little Mike Elko talk with Holman Wiggins from Juan Garza. There were rumors that Elko didn't want to lose Wiggins to another program. That's why he was elevated to OC. I heard those same rumors. Doesn't mean the rumors are true. But I couldn't help but wonder, listening to Elko yesterday, how he arrived at Holman Wiggins, because it felt like circular logic to me. You have an empty checkbook, or a blank checkbook, not an empty one, a blank checkbook to go hire whoever you want as offensive coordinator, and you decide to elevate a guy that hasn't called plays.
This is one of those. This is a situation where you have to be right,
and you're
have to be right because the expectations in the program have gone to another level. Have to be right,
man.
A lot of these guys work under intense pressure. That's working under intense pressure with the A&M fan base, because I guarantee you, guys in the chat probably have friends that are A&M fans that say, we're not sure about this.
This offense sputters against Arizona State.
Yep.
At Kyle Field.
Yep.
They're gonna be going and tugging on each other, say, hey, this ain't good.
If he ends up hitting it out of the park on this, then you tip your hat.
Do you really think he could hit it out of the park, though?
Well, to me, to me, hitting it out of the park would be actually getting it back in the playoff and winning a playoff game with a guy who's never called plays before, with the expectations in the program now. Not winning a title. I'm just saying, wouldn't that be kind of hitting it out of the park?
Yeah, I guess.
Make the playoffs a second straight year, then win the game in the playoffs, even if you lose the next round, with a guy that people question whether you should hire him or not.
I think I feel confident enough to know that that's not going to happen. You get my point. It's like there are certain things you feel pretty strongly about.
Yeah.
I just don't see that one. All right, this one from Dre from VA. Y'all brought up A&M's defense. We have been able to run all over them with Wisner. Can only seeing that being worse for them with Brown and Smothers. There's some truth to that.
Yeah.
And so I was talking to some OU guys yesterday, or day before, as well as A&M guys yesterday. And one of the things I would say with both of those teams and their defenses, they're very well coached on defense. And they flow with the ball, or flow to the ball, and know exactly where they're supposed to be. And so the cutback lanes on both of those defenses are almost always there. Now, A&M is a lot more risk-taking than Brent Venables.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is we saw Wisner break off big runs last year where A&M just vacated the area, but with a blitz of some sort on 3rd and 6 or that sort of thing. With Brown and Smothers, does that really change the trajectory of the run game against a team like A&M and or OU? Because I don't necessarily think Trey Wisner was plenty good against those teams.
Yes. So here's where I think what Texas has built on offense is maximized. it's going to be tougher even for Oklahoma and A&M to pick their poison against Texas this year if players are healthy and players perform. Okay, look, this is where think about A&M and Oklahoma this year. And Brent Venables is a great defensive coordinator, obviously great play caller. Give him credit where credit's due. But here's what I'm saying: Coleman, Wingo, Mosley. If those guys are healthy, Arch Manning, second-year starter, with the running backs, with the ability to throw the ball to the running backs out of the backfield too. This is where what you did in the portal and how you built this team, this is when you have a chance to really maximize it, when you play against the best defensive minds and the best defenses on your schedule. That to me is where this really shows up. It doesn't show up if you go put 49 points. It doesn't matter if you go beat Mississippi State 49-17 this year. It matters that you're tougher to defend, and you have to make people pick their poison, and you can't be made one-dimensional. And I think Texas this year with the personnel has their best chance to do that against anybody they play, as long as they're physical enough up front, but in the key games, in the key situation. But to your point, the cutbacks against Oklahoma and against A&M have been there. And Trey Weiser was really good at that, by the way, as well. He saw it. That's the other thing. You have to see it immediately, feel it, see it, react to it. But I think those two games, in particular rival games, and Ohio State better be one of those games, is where you see why this complete skill and weapons on offense can really impact you in those games. Because the whole key is to not be made one-dimensional.
All right, we have a few more questions I want to get to briefly because we're running out of time here this morning. But first, let's tell everybody about our friends over at Vaughn Lane. If you're in the Woodlands or North Houston and you've ever driven to Austin for work, a meeting at the Capitol, or a weekend on campus, you know the drill. 3+ hours on 290 construction zones, and you show up drained before your day even starts. Vaughn Lane just launched a new route between Austin and the Woodlands that changes all of that. You sit back in a first-class leather seat, connect to Starlink Wi-Fi, and arrive ready to go. And Longhorn football fans, you can book game day trips right now through October. So get on it. For Austin folks, the Woodlands route opens up easy access to concerts, family visits, and business in the area, all without battling Houston traffic yourself. And unlike the airlines, Vaughn Lane doesn't charge you extra for a seat assignment. Your luggage or Wi-Fi, that barely works. You get 22 oversized leather seats, Starlink internet that's actually fast, complimentary snacks, drinks, hot towel service, and meals on select departures. You walk into a hotel terminal, skip the TSA circus, and ride in comfort. That's it. No games. Vaughn Lane serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Fort Worth, Plano, the Woodlands, Nashville, Memphis, and Atlanta. Head to VaughnLane.com and enter promo code OTF26 for $20 off your first ride. That's OTF26 for $20 off your first ride. Thank you to Vaughn Lane, our sponsor of every Thursday morning's coffee and football. Good guys there. All right, a couple of quick questions I want to get to, Jerry, before we get going. K. John, MS6. Summerall acting like that yesterday doesn't inspire confidence in him winning at Florida. I don't know that y'all saw the full.
I was in there for that. That was a joke.
That was a total. He was joking.
Yes, it was taken out of context.
I will say this. I am buying Florida based on what I heard yesterday.
He's a ball coach. Yeah.
So I just want to say that quickly. All right. Jerry, this one from Antoine. Richmond Randall versus South Oak Cliff. First game of the season. Played at Prairie View A&M. What do you think? It's
going to be one hell of a game. Hopefully, it'll have 2 Texas commits in it. We'll see August 1st. Antoine, if it does, I'm guessing you'll be there. I'm guessing I could possibly be there too in that case, but that should be a hell of a game. Obviously, they've played before with a lot on the line, so that will be a hell of a game.
All right, one more thing here. What is this? Sorry about that, guys. Was Texas being last at Media Day strategically planned?
Yes.
I don't think so.
I do. I do. Look, I think a couple of years ago when
it was a ghost
when
town.
Drinkwitz was in there last, and he might have been speaking to himself. There was echoes. I think Lane today and Sark and Arch today. Yeah, I think that was done on purpose.
And I'm going to finish with this, Jason Wasson. I agree with this, and this is going to be, I think, my question to Steve Sarkisian today. Will Texas start faster than the last couple of seasons? They really haven't gotten out in front to put pressure on very often. Texas has to start faster this year. Last year, there was a little bit of an excuse because Arch was just getting started, right? This year, those excuses have to be gone. You have to start. You have got Ohio State game 2. You've got Tennessee game 4. You've got OU game 5. You have to start quick, or you're look. You can't go blow one at Tennessee like you blew one last year at Florida. Period.
No doubt. I mean, look, in last year, if you look at last year, the first play of the game on offense, Arch had a 25-yard gain if he makes the throw to DeAndre Moore.
Yes.
Instead, he put it in the ground 10 yards short. Okay. And it's amazing how just a singular play like that can affect you. There was a game last year where they had DeAndre Moore on a reverse, an emotion reverse. I can't remember who it was. It's a 23-yard gain. Parker Livingston got a hold on the edge. I mean,
they can't have those setbacks.
You have to hit your opportunities.
You have to hit your layups.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
You have to hit your opportunities. You have to hit your layups, and I think that's going to be a really big part of the Ohio State game. Is look, things can creep in if you don't get off to a fast start.
All right, that's going to do it. Day 4 media days here, Coffee and Football. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Jerry Hamilton, our producer, Matt Hutchison, struggling with some technical difficulties at some point midway in the show, but got those figured out. Thanks to Matt for doing that. Also, going to say this, we're going to have a bunch of news and notes for you guys today, as not only is Steve Sarkisian at the dais, but also Lane Kiffin will be there. We're going to hear a little bit from him. It should be fun to follow him as well.
Two other opponents, Jeff Lebby, Ryan Silverfield, Arkansas. I saw him walking around. All opponents of Texas today.
Do you have a final Dr. Pepper count for us, Matt, before we let folks go?
Somewhere
in the 20s. Six. There we go. All right, that's going to do it for this morning's Coffee and Football. Check us out over at ontexasfootball.com if you get a chance. We've got all the day's events chronicled there with Hank and the guys. All right, for Jerry Hamilton, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been On Texas Football. Welcome, Horns.